Good morning, everybody. This is Becca Heyman, and welcome to First Line Frenzy Live. I'm going to give Jen, my co-host, and everybody else about 3 minutes to get into the room. So if you're watching this on a replay, you are welcome to fast forward to around the 3-minute mark. I see Jen is here, so I'm going to get her on board. Here she Yes, no, technology.
Hey,
Hey, what's up?
can you hear me?
I can hear you, and this appears to be
Excellent.
working. I'm super pumped
Excellent.
for us today.
Well, we did rehearse like a couple of adults, so
Not like last time, but I was like, this is probably gonna work.
it
Definitely.
did. I mean, it was fine. It was fine.
It'll be like 6 hours to edit that video, but it's fine. It's fine. Four people have watched it, so it's really worthwhile.
I would just like to say that we have a studio audience today.
Is it an animal?
It is an animal. This is Rory,
Oh my god.
who is my aunt's dog, who I just involuntarily woke up from a nap. She's like, "Fuck this, I'm going back."
I just looked
But
at Prim, and Prim
I
is
am.
sleeping with her face like pushed
Aw,
into my bed, so she
I'm
was
sorry.
not available.
Well, Rory is staying with me for another week while my aunt is in Florida, and she's a very quiet house guest, except for when we get packages or anyone comes into the building, which is all the time. So,
I mean, so when she's protecting you from murderers.
I mean, it's funny because I'm just like, my dog couldn't give a shit. And I'm just like, Rory, this isn't your house to protect. Like, I
Any
appreciate
house
it,
where
but
Rory is Rory's house to protect.
John says Rory is cute. Thank you. She is.
John is usually right. Yeah, so while everybody's getting in here, we got a question this morning, or I got a question that I promised to ask you that we can sort of talk about. And the question is, I'm sure it's one you've never heard before. Why do some bad books do really well and some great books just enter oblivion and never gain traction? And so I was explaining, to this to the person who asked this question that your 10 years as a literary agent might provide some useful insight about why that happens.
Well, there's two factors. The first factor is marketing. Generally, if a good book doesn't quite go, it's because it hasn't gotten in front of the eyes that would really appreciate it. For whatever reason, it published into the wrong season. It was a small press who didn't necessarily position it the right way. It just got lost in a sea of louder books. The other thing is that, we sort of say something that is a bad book, but often bad books are quite readable. And I think that people discount that. Like Da Vinci Code, not a good book. Famously, hilariously, not a good book. But goddamn if I didn't read that thing in 2.5 hours.
Hard same. I actually, the person who told me to read that, if you want to know, it was my AP English teacher, my senior year of high school. And she was far and away the most snobbish literary persona in my life to that time. It was obviously I hadn't moved to New York yet, but she was like, this is going to blow your mind. This is just going to rip your whole brain apart. And I was like, oh my God.
And did it?
Yeah. And so, that was, you're right. It's an objectively bad book that did objectively really well.
But I think that
hard, I think, for people to.
Someone, my friend Shara says, but also Twilight, why? I think this is another example. Twilight, I don't think it's particularly well written, but it's very propulsive. You want to know what these two idiots are going to do, even if you're really invested.
The Bachelor have there been?
Truly,
right?
Truly.
It's an intolerably vapid and stupid program.
And I think that there's not anything wrong with a book that is just there to give you a solid propulsive reading experience. I think that we sort of, especially book people, attach a lot of value to the idea of a good book. And sometimes you just want something that's fun. And there's nothing wrong with writing an incredibly fun book that a lot of people are going to read and enjoy and is going to, hi Aunt Lynn. I've got so many people in the chat today. This is so exciting.
Welcome all of Jen's people. I like how they show up. Yeah, look, I think the flip side to that is there are some really great books that are not bad, but are also propulsive and also genre. And I know that for me, it's hard because you don't want to cast aspersions on like entire genres, right? But I know that
Yeah.
when I need a little bit of a brain break, or when I'm having a mental health wobble, or like when I just need a boost, the first thing I reach for is historical romance.
Yeah.
And there's some
Absolutely.
perfectly gorgeously written, like character driven, beautifully structured historical romance, that these are good books written by really smart, talented authors.
Yeah.
The craft in those books is fantastic. The research, just the scene setting, everything is really well done. And some of them hit big, you know, some of them do gain a lot of traction. But I think when we see quote unquote bad books, the one I'm thinking about currently is The Love Hypothesis, which is a new release that's getting a ton of 5-star reviews, and it's a Bookstagram darling. And I was like very eager to read it, and it's awful. You know, it was so
I haven't read
cliche.
it, so I can't
Please
comment.
Don't. It's like it's cliche after cliche. The main character is insufferable. She has the worst case of Bella Swan syndrome since Anastasia Steele. She is truly awful. And so the book is doing really well. It's gaining so much traction. Some of it, I think, you know, there's a real social media component, of course. A Bookstagram darling is bound to sell a lot of copies. So even if those negative reviews come in later, you know, it gets that quick start, and that also gives the perception of success, even if the success isn't there.
And also, you know, another thing to point out is that, you know, often when we talk about a big book, it's a book that sold a lot of copies, but that not necessarily a lot of people actually read. I mean, this is, I mean, I don't know if this is just my like wild conspiracy theory, but I think of the number of New York Times bestsellers that my parents have purchased because it was reviewed in the Times and then never read ever again.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a component to that. But I mean, in terms of like what to do about this issue, because I think that that's also something that this author is probably wondering, you know, they're like, what if mine is one that is
like, what if my book falls? Like, how do I avoid crap? Yeah.
I think it starts with like your behavior as a reader. Like when you're going to buy that Instagram darling book, like also look on the shelves for an author that you haven't read. Like look for something that you maybe have heard mentioned, but like not necessarily, because I think that that's the other thing we have to remember as book people, is that we have a lot of agency to sort of like sway the conversation by actually engaging with new authors or more established authors that don't have the strongest track record. I think that a lot of times it's just like, but publishing is ruining it. It's like, well, we also are the people who spend the money to make publishing go.
Yeah, and we're literary citizens. Yeah, and I think, you know,
I spend more money on books than anyone I know, even though I still work in publishing and could theoretically get all these books for free.
Get all of them for free. Yeah, so I also kind of deal with this, right, by if I do get something from the library, which I love audiobooks, and audiobooks rack up quick. You know, like the cost of an audiobook is very high. I get a lot of audiobooks from Hoopla and Libby, and so if I love an audiobook, I will then gift a hard copy, or ask my library to buy a copy, or, you know, there are ways to trigger buys for, you know, authors who are slightly less well known. Anyone who follows this account knows that I scream endlessly about the books that I care about, and even if I only trigger 3 people to buy a book, that's important. That has a ripple effect. You know, I was and am obsessed with the book, It's Been a Pleasure, Noni Blake by Claire Christian. I got it as an ARC. I absolutely loved it. I bought the audio when it came out. I read the ebook ARC, but I bought the audio. I have recommended that so many times, and everyone I know who's read it has then recommended it. So it creates a ripple effect. And so when you're passionate about the books that you read, you have to scream about them as loud as you can. And like, if that bothers people, they're not your people.
Yeah.
You know, like, so it's we're 10 minutes in. Of course, we got off on this tangent, a great tangent, and thank you.
This is the problem that Rebecca and I just love talking to each other. So.
I happen to know the person who asked this question is currently in the room, so thank you so much for you know, asking, and that's such a great topic. We could obviously talk about it endlessly. So we're gonna get started. I've chosen 15 lines. They are a variety of genres. I have some middle grade in the mix, which almost never happens. So my middle grade
yay.
authors, this is where we're at.
Let me bring this a little closer so I can read.
What I'm going to have to do is split my screen. So I'm going to be like an off-camera radio personality right now. Oops. I put this in focus mode. So can everybody, if you can see that, can you give me like a thumbs up or a heart in the comments so I know that everybody can see this? Well, yes, obviously I know you can because you practice. I'm going to lower this down a little. Is that big enough for everybody? It's in like a 25 font.
I would make it just a tiny bit bigger if you can.
Even bigger. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, oh, well.
I'm also facing up to the fact that I need to wear glasses more often. So
yes,
like my reading glasses, like.
If I bring it closer to you, is that okay?
Oh no, that's fine.
Is that okay?
If you bring it any closer, it's going to cut off words.
Exactly. And so at this point, I'm not sure that I can actually.
Well, then we're getting a lot of hearts and thumbs up. So I think we're good.
Right.
I think we're good.
You need to get reading glasses, and then everybody else is fine.
I know I have them, but they're just somewhere in this room, and I don't know.
Fun, very short story, is that when I was younger in like kindergarten, no one realized that I was pretty much legally blind. And the first time I put on glasses, I looked at my mom and I said, I hadn't realized previously that she had curly hair. And so that's how blind I was. So there's no forgetting my glasses. I would just be a zombie mess. Okay, enough about me. Let's talk about this historical adult line. On her wedding night, the new Mrs. Crawford sleeps alone.
So right away, I actually kind of love this. I think it's kind of evocative because you're immediately like, well, why is she sleeping alone? Like, what happened? My one thing is I wish it was past tense. Like, I wish it was on her wedding night, the new Mrs. Crawford slept alone. Because I feel like that sort of has more of a mystery feel to it. But I also don't know anything about the genre or the book. So
yeah, I mean, all we know is that it's historical adult. I agree that there's the idea of reading an entire book with this present tense, verb is going to be maybe a little overbearing. And on her wedding night, the new Mrs. Crawford slept alone does have an appeal. That said, this could be part of a prologue, in which case the present tense wouldn't bother me as much.
I often find that, first person present works better for me as like a contemporary stuff.
Agreed.
I mean, I don't have any hard and fast rules about about tense choices or, POV, but I do think that there is something evocative about the way this is framed, because it does. I mean, you always talk about like, starting with sort of like a conflict or a question. And I think that's built in here in a really interesting way.
Yeah. I think at the heart of it, this is a what's next instead of a so what. I have so many questions about why this situation is what it is, but I'm not confused about what this situation is. And that really is the fine line between so what and what's next.
And one little thing, and I don't know if this is like intentional on the author's point, but the new Mrs. Crawford implies the existence of an old Mrs. Crawford.
Yeah. Well, either an old Mrs. Crawford or like she's a second
Mrs. De Winter?
Daphne du Maurier.
Exactly.
There's definitely some enticement there. I wasn't sure if it was just that she's a new wife or a new Mrs. Crawford. There's a perfect amount of ambiguity that has us asking questions without stopping to go, huh? Which is sometimes what happens. Okay, I'm going to scroll down. It will probably be inelegant, but here we go.
This is already better than our first one, so.
I mean, literally, it could not have gotten worse. So I'm just going to have to adjust a little bit. Wait, maybe. Oh, nope. Okay.
There you go.
There it is.
My Aunt Van Golfer has the theory, mistress, perhaps. It's like, yes, exactly. That's the great thing about a line like that introduces questions that create excitement rather than confusion. I think a lot of times, if we're asking questions like, but what? Then
we'll get there. Don't worry. Yeah. I haven't really looked too closely at what's here. I try not to, harsh the vibe of my surprise, but there's definitely some coming up.
Okay.
So this is from an adult mystery. When I was granted a 3-year employment contract to work with the women of the Bandalong Island group, I was elated.
I don't love this.
It's a so what?
It's a so what?
So what?
I feel like I was elated because, there needs to be a why, and the why needs to be excited after that, like exciting. Like I was elated because then I could get away from like a place where I'd killed a man. Like, there needs to be a reason that this is important other than sort of career advancement, because I don't know this person.
My guess is that we get that in the next line, but my recommendation for this author is to have better language efficiency. I was elated to, I was elated to join the women of the Bandalong Island group for a 3-year employment contract because
Because,
right?
yeah.
And so there's a lot of room in this sentence to grow, but not with the current syntax and structure.
Yeah.
The current syntax and structure spends so long establishing the facts of the 3-year employment contract, of where we are and the name of the group, which again, group should be capitalized here.
This gives me
too much time spent on the dull stuff and not enough.
This gives me strong college application vibes.
Yes, that is a good point. I always, whenever I think about college essays, I think about this very shy, quiet young man in my AP English class. I guess we're just going to keep coming back to that class today, who ended all of his college essays with, "And that is why I think that." And
bless.
It was just like super charming and terrible. And so this is kind of, and that is why I think that, right? It's a very, this happened, and
we have someone joining us from Scotland.
Yeah.
Hi.
Well, Kate shows up to these things a lot, and I'm so happy you're here. We've just gotten started, so you haven't missed much. I'm going to move ahead to the next line, and hopefully it aligns beautifully. Hey. This is an adult romance. I never thought I'd be a woman who left a hotel in haste with a priceless necklace wrapped around her neck that wasn't even hers. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say that the neck does belong to our narrator, even though the grammar here suggests it was someone else's.
Yeah,
so
you gotta
watch those
everything.
Modifiers, friends. And also,
this is another one where it's like this, the content could be more interesting if everything is, oh my God, my other aunt is here. Hi.
So much
our entire family.
Support. I love this.
Rory is sitting next to me on the couch, Jen. She's good. She's hanging out. I mean, the thing that I don't love about this is that it feels like it could be funnier, but isn't. Like, I feel like if it was, I never thought I'd be the woman. Like, this is a genre of person who steals necklaces inadvertently, like leaving a hotel room in haste. But there's something about this just isn't working.
So for me, also, I would say that this is going to seem maybe out of left field, but the woman who feels that she's an exception among women is less interesting to me than the woman who owns her experience. And so this is not an uninteresting scene. I think this is probably the right place to begin, but it's the wrong approach. I don't need you to have ever thought about being
whether you would do jewelry crimes in this specific way.
Yeah, like I don't think any of us really, I don't know. I mean, aside from career criminals from the cradle, I don't think that's not the interesting part of this. You're burying the lead. You're burying the interesting part of this behind this thought.
I wonder if you if this person rephrased to start from like a more specific place to ground us in like the place and time, like, when the evening began, I didn't think I'd end it fleeing the hotel in haste with a priceless necklace that wasn't even mine wrapped around my neck.
Right. With the stolen, heart of the ocean diamond wrapped around my neck. Like there's room for a lot of specificity and a lot of like sort of propulsive, interesting, invitational, feedback, like content here. You could invite us into this moment as co-conspirators, but instead you're setting up a barrier between, the kind of woman you never thought you'd be. Maybe I'm that kind of lady. Don't exclude me, So I just feel like there's room. This is the right instinct. It's the wrong execution.
Yeah, absolutely. We concur. Excellent.
Oh, a YA fantasy. To be born a girl is like a curse, Mother said, as the scissors cut through my long locks and strands of brown. My long locks, and strands of brown fell to the floor around my chair. So, what do we think about this?
I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I think it would be interesting to have a connection to why she needs to have her hair cut about it. Like,
I guess my assumption here, and again, I try not to write content that doesn't exist, but my assumption is that this person is being disguised as a boy. That's how I read it. That like the haircut.
I guess
is
that's
about
true.
disguising her femininity, which is like a total, I don't know. Again, I catch myself doing this where I'm like, well, maybe it's this. Doesn't matter what it could be, matters what it is, right?
And I wonder, I mean, this is where, you know, as an editor, I'm sort of more guided by like feeling than specificity. But here I'm wondering why, like, how does the girl whose hair is being cut feel about the curse? Like, does she feel like it's a curse? Does she feel like this is, but I don't know the specific way that I would suggest working that into this as a, because I just feel like this is just sort of like, oh, I'm getting my hair cut and my mom's just going on about girlhood.
She's doing that, you know, hairstylist thing where we just chatter. So Amy offered a really interesting comment, which is interesting invite into the story. It's the voice and sentence structure that needs refinement to punch up the tension. And I agree with that. So if this is someone getting a haircut to disguise their femininity, or if this is, you know, some kind of ritual or rite of passage, that is really interesting. But we don't know any of that because there's so much language devoted to the act of cutting, which is not something we need to waste descriptive language on. The idea of the scissors cut through my long locks is edging toward passivity because the scissors don't have agency. Mother said as she cut through my long locks and strands of brown hair fell to the floor around my chair. You know, that whole everything after the and is really extraneous, right? We could have mother said as she cut through my long brown locks, and then give me something really unique and interesting about hours before I was supposed to be, you know, auctioned off at the child bride festival or whatever it is.
Or even something small like how long she'd been growing her hair. Like, you know, hair I'd been growing since I was like 5 years old.
Exactly.
You know, something to sort of signal her connection to her own hair. Because we know what her mom thinks about her hair, even if we don't know everything because she's cutting it off, but how she feels about it.
Yeah, mom has a lot of feelings about hair, so that's something that's happening. I think, again, this is another case of correct scene, wrong execution. So I think, author, you should celebrate your instincts, which are good, but you have to think about how you are bringing us into this moment and how much language we really need to devote to something like the hair was cut.
This is my like knee-jerk thing. I hate the word locks. It just feels very like dated to me. Long locks.
Let's not ignore the fact that locks also has a loaded cultural significance because of it's, you know, a shortened form of dreadlocks. So there's a lock of hair, which is like also, yes, absolutely.
I mean, it's sort of general, but it's also like lock and strand are two different, like a lock is a chunk and a strand is like
a piece,
like a, you know, what I pick out of the shower drain. So yeah. All right. Thriller suspense.
Okay. This is one of our first middle grade of the day. There's more than one. You're welcome. I've got the perfect plan, semicolon. We're going to Transylvania this summer, Katie announced as she walked into her favorite coffee shop. My gut on this is that, number one, like the idea of a middle grade novel that starts in a coffee shop is incongruous to me because what are the kids doing in the coffing shop? I
mean, the yous and the TikToks, like, I don't know, but
who knows?
The thing that it doesn't feel middle grade. It doesn't feel, I don't know. It just, the coffee shop, but also like this could be YA, this could be adult humor, like this could be anything.
Yeah, I also want to say that I have a middle grade reader at home. You know, I have an 8-year-old. We read a lot together, but what he reads independently doesn't have semicolons in it. Yeah. It's just a little above the pay grade for those readers right now. And so I'm not saying I like to see challenge words and, you know, ideally a kid would ask questions about a mark of punctuation that's unclear, but we want to offer young readers content that is appropriate for them to read independently. My friend Evelyn says Transylvania, woohoo. We have a Transylvanian in the house, which is, you know, a maze. So I think the point for us here is this doesn't feel like middle grade. And maybe it's right on the edge between upper middle grade and YA, But
Well, and
again,
the other question is the plan for what? The perfect plan for summer, or is this plan a solution to something? Like, you know,
agreed. There could be
yeah,
more specificity here that could draw us in.
yeah,
I generally don't love starting with dialogue, as most First Line Frenzy diehards know. I often discourage this unless it's a piece of dialogue that upsets a piece of conventional wisdom, or something really familiar that gets turned on its head. I also always question the wisdom of, the way this is structured. We don't know if Katie is the protagonist or if the person hearing her is the protagonist. And
yeah,
I would love to centralize the protagonist as soon as possible. So I think,
yeah,
again, this is probably the right place to start in terms of welcoming young readers into a story, but the execution is a little wonky.
yeah. Wonky.
Beep, boop, beep. Commercial general fiction, adult. Cars honk. Late night revelers laugh and scream as they run for cover from the endless downpour, the howling wind carrying the noise from below through the open window.
Oof.
Yep, oof is correct.
This is so unspecific. This could be
General,
anything.
literally anywhere. Maybe city, because we have cars honking and late night
You know what
revelers.
this reads like? This reads like blocking from a play. Like this is the notes you get before the dialogue starts in a play.
Yes,
To like
exterior. Cars honking.
exterior city street night.
Yes, it really is. And I think we might leap to the assumption that this author is seeing sort of the movie adaptation of their novel in their head before they've actually gone ahead and written the novel, which happens a lot. When we start with weather, the weather has to reflect the internal circumstances of a specific character for a specific reason. My favorite example of this is the Diane Lane movie Unfaithful, where it starts with this massive windstorm and she's literally being blown across the street and gets an injury. And those are the winds of change, and they are blowing through her life. And so when we can get there, great. It's harder to pull off in writing. And so, I would say, where possible, you want to bring us into character and conflict before setting, especially when the setting is so generalized as it is.
Yeah.
Here.
Or
and notice that we're getting into the house, right? It's not even the street. It's all of this noise is coming in through an open window.
This is for the dolly shot, like down the street and into the window where the protagonist is sitting.
Absolutely. This is the dolly shot. We're going to codify that in our FLF language lexicon. The dolly shots.
I'm glad to have contributed to the lexicon.
Oh, you've contributed. Sci-fi adult. Xander woke in the gutter, dressed in a 3-piece double-breasted suit, reeking of vodka, sniff, and vomited vodka.
Well, repetition of the word vodka is already like a no-no. Okay. I mean, I guess my question is, why does this matter? Like, why does it matter that he woke up in the gutter? Like, is this a change? Is this not where he expected to end up? Does he usually wake up in the gutter in a different outfit? Like, I have no idea why any of this information is consequential. Yeah.
So my feeling about this is that I don't mind.
Someone's buzzing my door. Yikes.
I don't mind zooming in on someone having a hard time. However, this is a wake up, which you all know is rule number 1 of absolutely the hell not in First Line Frenzy land. Wake ups are never interesting, even if you are reeking of vomited vodka. I just don't care. Fast forward me a few minutes. There's got to be something more dynamic going on than like resuming consciousness. It's just not something I ever care about. And honestly, when I see a wake up, it makes me a little wary of the author's, I guess, their ingenuity around story structure. It throws up a little red flag for me going forward. This flags for me that this author is going to spend a lot of time describing actions that the author knows. Usually if a book ends in this begins in this kind of way, I can expect describing getting dressed, describing making coffee, describing
like all these actions were like, unless they're done in an interesting way, the reader knows how to make coffee. The reader knows how to put on pants. Like
Yeah,
you don't need to
there's going to be a
describe
lot
those
of
step by step.
choreography. Yeah, a lot of
Choreography and blocking. Yeah.
Yeah, which again, we should get them together with the previous author and they can write a screenplay because that would be great. So again, I want to know what's interesting about Xander besides his unsavory smell and his outfit.
And also this whole sniff thing, like what's the deal with that? Like he's already reeking of vodka. He doesn't need to take a sniff. Like how? Like
well,
I'm very confused.
I'm wondering if this is an effort at third person super close instead of just putting it in first person. I wonder. I think this is probably an effort to alleviate some narrative distance, but it's not particularly effective.
Yeah.
After this one, we're gonna have a commercial break, by which I mean I'm gonna let Jen tell you about her special that she's running. But we're gonna do this one first. Okay, thriller, suspense, adult. The worst crime David Delaney committed before he died was to name his infant daughter Raphael, then abandon her at the gates of New Eden Biogenetic Research Laboratories.
Okay.
There's a lot to unpack here, not least of which is the named character. The first named character is already dead. And then the second named character, and then we have a worst crime, which is a superlative singular.
And also
worst crime.
Implies the existence of other crimes.
Stated. So
yeah,
it's either naming his infant daughter Raphael or abandoning her at the gates of the laboratory singular.
And like, what's so bad about Raphael? Like Rafaela, like there's not really like a huge, like why is that the crime?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, it just
abandonment seems worse than a somewhat incongruous name.
Seems a little bit worse, especially abandonment at a biogenetic research laboratory.
Yeah, I mean, I guess from this, I would probably expect something with like a somewhat humorous tone, but I'm not really like, because this is getting like, I'm trying to be a little like edgy and funny, but it's not actually giving me edge or fun. If that makes sense.
Fun. Yeah. So I will also say though that there's a good instinct here for the syntax. I think the structure is pretty okay. There's just this problem about the superlative, which is inaccurate. The name, which we find inoffensive. Zelena says, still a better name than Apple. You are correct. So, I think this is probably an effort to find the narrative voice that just needs to be revised. You could even maybe say something like, it was, David Delaney's worst crime was a toss-up between X and Y.
Yeah.
Even that is a little bit more forgivable for me.
Or even if this is like, the final in a long sequence of David Delaney's crimes, what if like this, you could even, I mean, this makes the sentence a little longer, which I know you're not a huge fan of, but the second to last crime,
yes,
David Delaney,
the penultimate crime. So I think there's be a case of too much information smashed into one sentence. This might be a first paragraph concept that's now trying to function as a first line idea. So yeah, I think our instinct though is that we both like what's happening here. It's just not happening in a way that we like.
Yeah, it's not, I don't get sort of like a knee jerk, like, ugh, no, but I also have a lot of like, but why questions and not like a, but what's next question. So
yes, we somewhere between so what and what's next is but why. So
yeah.
I think that's an issue. Okay, I'm gonna briefly flip myself back around. Hello.
Hello.
So hello. I started my curly girl journey. I have naturally curly hair, but I've been blow drying it for 30 years. So I'm starting to end that today. This is my first day.
Looks good.
Y'all are wondering why I'm not more coiffed. So I want to take a small break for Jen to talk about her special, which is ongoing right now, but not forever. So take it away, Jen.
Sure. So like Rebecca, I am also a freelance editor. I work mostly through Readsy, but also through referrals and other places. And currently I am running a sort of back to school special where if you would like to get a critique of your query letter and your first 10 pages, it's $25, which is a significant discount from what I normally charge for that kind of thing. Um, so I have instructions on how to take advantage of the special on my Instagram and a highlight. And it's running through October 5th. I really like these kinds of things because I think that it's the first 10 pages are so crucial for, attracting the attention of an agent. The query is so crucial for sort of being able to talk about your own book. So it's always fun to be able to work with authors and, help get those sort of into shape and get them into better fighting trim for the querying process.
Yes.
So $25. I'm running it through end of day on October 5th, which is my birthday. So yeah, if you're interested, head on over to my Instagram highlights and you can check out the details.
Amy says she's currently preparing her submission for you. This is awesome. It is an incredible deal. So again, that's going on until October 5th. The thing I'm gonna hype today is the First Line Frenzy Book Club. I don't know if all of you are linked up to the First Line Frenzy Book Club yet, but our pick for October is Competitive Grieving by Nora Zelavansky. This is an amazing novel. I love it. I read it as an ARC. It stuck with me. It's about a woman named Ren who loses her childhood best friend who happened to have also been a rising star of the screen. And so this is about the grieving process in public. It's funny. There's like a truly unexpected and deeply heartfelt romance in this book. It's just a book about different kinds of relationships and how we process big feelings and growing up. It's just, I cannot say enough about how much I love this book. So every week, starting this Friday at 2 p.m., I will be here on IG Live discussing a different craft element in the book. This is how the First Line Frenzy Book Club is different from all those other book clubs where you just drink wine and talk about not why you didn't read the book. So you can read it at
which
your
is
leisure.
Also fun, but
also great, no judgment. But basically, I've been posting some questions in my stories so that you can interact with me during the conversation, but I'll just be giving like a half-hour book talk about this. Now, I happen to know that Nora is going to try to stop by on Friday and potentially join me live. And then at the end of the month, here's the real kicker. At the end of the month, Nora will be on an IG Live with me to critique your first lines, but only from authors who have participated in the book club all month. So there's a different form for that. I also have created a highlight in my bio. It's the first highlight that will link you to the different form for the First Line Frenzy Book Club, and you can put your line in there. So you'll get feedback from me and Nora, this like incredibly talented author who you will love and respect after reading this book. So we'll both be giving feedback. The club right now is around 30 people, so there's a good chance we'll get to a good number of those first lines. So if you want a chance to just engage with me around an amazing text and get some awesome feedback from a really, truly stupendous author, this is maybe the way to do it. So I think that is, I'm just making sure there are no big questions right here in the comments. It looks like everyone's on board and super pumped about our stuff, which is great. And so I think we should get back to today's programming. Here we go. I'm going to go back to radio mode. Okay. So let's see what's next.
We're done with you, David Delaney.
You're dead to us and to everybody else. A contemporary, a contemporary realistic YA. Within seconds of the judge announcing that I was to be sanctioned to White Rainbow, one of the preservers appeared on the witness stand to take me away. Do we not think this is actually like dystopian YA?
It's definitely dystopian.
I'm pretty sure I have that as an option. And if not, it should have been listed under fantasy. But anyway, certainly the presence of a capital P preserver puts this in dystopia territory.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is one of those like immediately giving me a lot of world building without giving me any context for the character. Like we've got an I in there, but who is I? Like where are they at that this is happening to them? Like
what is White Rainbow? Is it like a juvenile detention center? Is it a work camp? Like what is
also
it?
Sanctioned is such a weird, like you impose sanctions against something. I
think this might be a misuse of the word sectioned, unless it's an in-world
You mean
word.
sanctioned? Yeah, I mean, I get, but if it is an in-world word, then it shouldn't be in the first sentence because in-world words need context.
Yes, they
And
absolutely
I
need
think
context.
I feel like it's impossible to give that context in the first. I mean, honestly, like this is one of those things where it's like, as cheesy as it is, like on the day of my 16th birthday, I
Yeah.
was sanctioned to the white rainbow and immediately was taken away. Like then at least, you know, we're being placed in a time in this person's life where we kind of understand like where it's like where it's happening in their life.
I
So
guess for me also it's that you know, without knowing what the white rainbow is and without knowing why this person is before a judge, it
yeah,
it makes it, and like also a preserver appears on the witness stand. Does that mean that our narrator is on the witness stand? Because that's not where someone accused of a crime stands.
yeah.
Anyway, too many logistical problems here, too many
This is
questions, too much
this is
in-world language.
this is the but what?
But what?
Like
Huh?
yeah.
Yeah. I promised you some, huh? And here I have delivered. Never say I never gave you nothing. All right, here we go.
Right.
See another YA. This one is a YA romance. Raz couldn't quite understand why she felt a strong compulsion to slap Veer across the face as she stood there watching him sharpen his saw.
I kind of like this.
I kind of do too. You know, I think I do, and
Although
I like that it establishes this, what I suspect is an enemies to lovers trope, which I think is fab. What I worry about is that Roz doesn't understand her own feelings.
that was what I was going to say is this is the thing that I see a lot where someone either doesn't understand or like tamps down on a feeling rather than sort of experiencing it.
Ooh, great point.
Like even if she was fighting the urge to slap him, that would honestly be better. Like,
right, exactly. Yeah, I agree.
Roz fought the urge to slap, fought the compulsion. Someone says, why are all the girls in YA abusive?
So this is a great point, actually. And this is the other thing that got my hackles up, which is that I think casual violence is something that is often forgiven in YA when it comes from female characters. And I actually have a huge problem with this. Casual violence is part of why I stopped reading Jasmine Guillory books, because in like the second novel in that, you know, every title has to do with being married series. I don't know the order.
The proposal?
Anyway, what's that? Maybe it's the proposal. Yeah. So, you know, toward the end, the main character like punches or gets violent with an ex-boyfriend who's honestly just trying to talk to her. And yes, he's being annoying, and for sure he's like a little in your face about it, but she like celebrates herself for this act of violence, and I was like, that's incredibly distasteful to me, and I really can't, I don't stomach that well, because if we gender flipped this, it's much less casual, right? So we need to hold it. Part of being a feminist means holding ourselves to the same high standard that we hold men to in terms of how we use our bodies against other people. And so I immediately don't love anybody's compulsion to slap anyone else. I just think there is probably a better
well,
way.
I wonder if the word compulsion is the problem, because because we follow in on compulsions, like we follow up on compulsions, but like
it's true, they're very hard to resist.
If she can't understand the desire, if this urge to violence is like a new thing for her and she's like struggling with it, like that actually makes a little bit more sense to me and kind of softens that, like, because a compulsion, like I believe someone would follow up on a compulsion. Does that, I don't know if that's like too thin of a line to draw.
For me, that's too thin of a distinction. But here's what's not. For me, if it's Roz, if she's trying to suss out the desire, or as John suggests, the temptation to touch this person, and can't figure out if she wants to like run her fingers through his, you know, luxurious hair, or you know, punch him in the arm, then I'm a little more okay with it. It's just the sort of virulence of slap across the face that is so I don't know, I find that very off-putting, and maybe I guess I don't have it, but I guess I don't have
the same, I don't have quite the same sort of strong feeling as you do, but I do agree that there's something about this that isn't, because I want to know what this is in response to. Like and maybe this is a problem. Like maybe this is a problem of not starting in the right place. Because I feel like I have too many questions about like the circumstances of wanting to slap him. Because if he's done something where he's just like, I'm gonna kill your entire family, and she's like, I'm gonna fucking slap you, like that's one thing. But, I mean, you know,
I don't think that's it. But
I don't think that is it. But like, this is maybe a question of not starting in the right place.
Yeah, I think there's not starting in the right place. I think there's, let's have Roz take some agency over her own emotions, and let's not codify casual violence when it comes from women, because we don't want to tolerate casual violence when it comes from men. So I just think there's something to be said for holding ourselves accountable to, yes, our emotions, and maybe it's about making contact. Maybe it's about touch and not about violent touch. And then I think there's, maybe it's a choice between like rubbing up against him and hiding under a desk. Like, I think even that, you know, pose a line, but it's less of an offensive line for me. I'm going to keep moving here. This is page 11. So we have, we're in the last 5 here. Okay, so this is commercial or general fiction for adults. Reverend Malachi licks his lips when we arrive, fantasizing no doubt about what I'm wearing beneath my black wool coat besides the ankle monitor.
I mean, I already hate this man, so like, well done. But also, like, it sounds like you're not wearing anything underneath the coat but your ankle monitor.
I thought this was hilarious. I really liked this. I thought it was so funny.
Okay.
I mean,
I was just so immediately repulsed by this reverend guy that I was just like, ew.
Yeah, but I mean, because of the genre, I'm assuming that the person with the ankle monitor is also an adult. So it was a little less creepy for me. And I thought, the name Malachi is obviously biblical. And is Malachi not one of the fallen angels?
I think he is.
So in that case, I was thinking maybe this is like, could be a Halloween party, because it's kind of a hilarious, a reverend who's also named after a fallen angel seems almost too funny to be true. I don't know.
I met a real life man named Uriah the other day. So
yeah,
I don't think that anyone naming people after biblical figures has read the Bible.
We always, when I was growing up, all of our pets were named after biblical. All of our pets had biblical names.
Yeah.
Because we're normal. I had a bunny named Elijah growing up. He was a big favorite. Anyway. I mean, I think this is creepy. It's uncomfortable. It's visceral. It's evocative. It's extremely effective. I have so many questions, but none about what's going on. I know exactly what's happening. I just don't know why yet. And I totally want to find out.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely divisive, but in a way that kind of entices.
Well, it's divisive, but it's effective.
Yes.
Because it doesn't not provoke a feeling.
Because
I feel like even though it's not for me, this goes back to like our question at the top, like, you know, is this for me? No, but like, do I want to find out what happens next? Probably.
I'd probably listen to someone tell me what happens in this book, right? I'd read a review.
Yeah.
I think this feels a little gritty. It gives me, I don't know, it just gives me like slightly dark, gritty vibes, and I could be okay with that. It's not necessarily the kind of book I reach for unless someone tells me to read it specifically. But by and large, I think this is effective in its ability to quickly develop intrigue and interest.
Yeah. All right.
There's a lot going on there. Okay, wait. Oh, where am I? Feeling so proud of myself for cracking this nut of sharing lines on a joint live. This is another middle grade. This is fantasy. Kaya had performed these checks every day for as long as she could remember. Flask, maps, a dagger, and the most important of all, her family's compass.
Is that a typo or is that a...
This is the question. I don't know if a dagger is an in-world word, a special kind of dagger, maybe, or if this is like, I generally try to correct people's typos in these things because I think it's easy to make mistakes, but this is such a drastic You know, I have to believe that this is intentional. Oh, just pausing to say that John clarified for us that Malachi is a prophet biblically, but many fictional characters who are evil are named Malachi. Okay, so maybe I'm just, all of that, you know, cultural intake has
Someone
seeped
else
in.
pointed out, Alina pointed out that Malachi was the creepy guy from the Children of the Corn, which would do it.
I'm
That
too
would
afraid
do
to
it.
watch Children of the Corn. I don't do horror, so here we are.
It's real cheesy, so you're not really missing
I
much.
would still be terrified. There we are.
Um,
So aside, let's assume this Dagar is a thing. Okay, it's an in-world thing. How do we
mhm.
feel about this list to begin?
Um, I don't hate it. I feel like it's a solid beginning to like a middle grade. I'm assuming it's adventure. I'm assuming it's sort of fantastic. I mean, obviously it's fantasies because it says that, but I'm assuming it's sort of like a quest story. So I
I'm
do
getting
like
Katniss Everdeen vibes, aren't you?
I am, and I'm also getting like you know, if this is something that she's been doing every day, that means she's been doing it for quite a long time, which tells us a lot about the kind of life she's lived.
Yeah.
So I think that it's actually a pretty solid start. I mean, it's not the most compelling, and I don't know if that's me reacting to the Dagar or Dagger. I mean, if it's I did call Stephen King cheesy. Have you seen that movie? It's
You
so
know,
cheesy.
people on the rewatch can't see the comments, so I'm just gonna let everybody know that Elena just said you just
Oh,
called Steve
sorry.
cheesy,
Okay.
which is, you know, these things happen. We're doing a lot of call outs today. More me than Jen, but here we are calling everybody out. So I think part of what you're responding to is that middle grade fiction is not written for you, and it's not like its point of entry is not as, I generally find point of entry in middle grade is not as dynamic, because welcoming young readers into a story is a slightly different project from
Yeah.
welcoming experienced readers into a story. And I think that's part of what happens in a lot of middle grade that I read now with my son. It's just a little bit slower to start because kids need a little more time to get uploaded into a world.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, like I said, I kind of like it. I think it does sort of set a vibe and a mood. And I think that if I was told that this was a fantasy and this was the beginning, I'd be like, this reads like a fantasy. This
It feels
isn't.
solid. I
Yeah,
don't know
it
how,
feels like
it's
the
not the most
expectations
interesting
are.
line I've ever seen, but it's very solid. Very, very
Yeah.
solid. Another adult romance. Oops. Sunday night dinner at her parents' house was making Ellis Bourne a little crazy. So right off the bat, I hate casual use of the word crazy. It is part of what stigmatizes mental illness. And this is a pet peeve of mine that I forever point out to my own, to my authors that I work with. So, you know what? I just, for the fraction of your readers that will be offended by this, it's not worth using a word like that, which can really,
Well, also, you know, apart from the sort of offensiveness, it's also incredibly unspecific. Like, what about this is driving her around the bend? Like, what about this is upsetting her? Like, what about this is sort of like making her have a strong emotion? Like, this
yeah.
line is very short, and we don't have any information about, like, is this the latest family dinner? Is this just that she can't bring herself to go to family dinner because it drives her, you know, it makes her so upset? Like, it's just unspecific.
I think it's unspecific, and I think there's an easy fix here, which is focus on embodied experience. Sunday night dinner at her parents' house was making Ellis Bourne feel like, you know, ripping out her hair, throwing her plate of bolognese across the room. Like, give me a physical reaction that helps set
Sunday night dinner at her parents' house made Ellis Bourne want to take to the sea. Like,
it made her want to knock people's hats off, and that's a special gift to my fellow Moby Dick lovers.
yeah. I want to take to the woods and never be seen again by human eyes. Like,
exactly. So there's a much bigger opportunity here for voice, for humor, and for scene setting. And so again, this is a good sentiment to begin with. But I think there's a lot of room to maneuver here toward more specificity and certainly more humor, because there's nothing funny about being a little crazy.
Yeah.
So here we go. On to the next. We're making great time here today. Just wanted to pat ourselves on the back. Thriller suspense, back to adult fic. Shifting from kneeling to sitting, the pain in my thighs recedes as the cold from the ground seeps into my jeans.
This gives me a similar feeling as that weather dolly shot one earlier.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know who this person is. You know, they could be kneeling or sitting for any number of reasons, and none of those, and many of those don't involve the beginning to a thriller or suspense. Like I, I went to church on Sunday, and I went from kneeling to sitting. Like
I thought it was church at first. That was my gut too. And then I was like, wait, outside church?
But
do you guys do that?
I almost, but then I got to the ground, and I was like, okay, so she's outside, but like, why? This doesn't give me thriller vibes at all. Like, there's no suspense here.
And also, pain in my thighs from kneeling. I don't know. There's a lot happening here that is just not. I think bring the lens in. I think this could be something that happens in the first paragraph or on the first page, but it's not good fodder for the first line.
You could even set it up. I mean, if it's already first person, you're establishing that the cold from the ground is seeping into her genes, or their genes. I mean, give us like, how long have they been, like, I had been kneeling for so long that the cold had seeped from the ground into my genes. Like, give us some context to how long this has been happening and how they feel about it. Because this is also a very short sentence. Like, you could work more information into this without sort of making it unwieldy.
Yeah, and I'll also say, just like, look at the percentage of words here devoted to physical choreography.
Yeah.
It's too much. I'm hell-bent on wrapping in a real hour, so we're going to move on to the last one here. An adult fantasy. Nia, what do we think of this?
I think probably Nia.
Yeah. Nia's pockets were full enough to draw suspicion, but she doubted the godlings would have noticed if a lion entered the tea house and sat at a table. The first part was great, and then you lost me.
Yeah, I mean, full pockets. I guess this is one of those questions where one of these situations where I have more questions about the logistics in the background than I do about what happens next.
Yeah.
Like, why are full pockets an issue? Like, who are the godlings? Why are they at a tea house? I mean, I hear godlings and tea house is not what I expect next. This I think is similar to that YA where it was a lot of in-world words introduced right away that didn't necessarily have impact.
Agreed. Yeah, I think I'm interested in godlings in a tea house, I guess. Like, sure, why not? But and I'm interested in what's in Nia's pockets, right? Like, I think that's the best part of this sentence is the first part. I think this analogy to a lion sitting down, that's where things are really going off the rails.
Yeah.
I think there's a way to say that the godlings aren't paying attention to her and are sort of self-absorbed or absorbed in whatever they're doing without relying on something sort of so out of left field that it seems to make much sense. So I think that this, again, right moment, good instincts, sentence needs refinement, but is on its way to there. I'm going to come back on. Don't be alarmed. It may.
Hello.
So, that was today's First Line Frenzy. I want to say thank you to all of our authors who sent in lines. I've been posting pretty much every day, getting a lineup every day. So, I think there's a line going up. Is there a line going up this afternoon? No, I have a little writing tip going up this afternoon that you're not going to want to miss because it's about action versus movement and how they are not even remotely the same. I think you all are going to love that. So thank you, Jen, for being here. Everybody, I'm going to put a reminder about Jen's special in the info to this video for the replay. There's a link in Jen's bio that will also get you to this information and a highlight on her page that will get you to this special. Jen, people only have until October 5th to book this special, but how long do they have to send you? Like, if we have someone who's not quite ready to send this to you, like,
I would say,
what's the thing?
Within like 2 weeks of October 5th, because getting into the fall, I need to, spend more time on edits and longer work. So I won't be able to respond as quickly. So if I receive the material within 2 weeks of October 5th, that's really the best. So
Okay.
I don't know what exact date that is, but
Whatever, they'll figure it out. Y'all have
yeah.
calendar. Okay, so do that. Get competitive grieving before Friday. If you are worried that you won't have time to read the book, you only have to read like 2 pages to participate fully in Friday's conversation. Chapter 1 is 2 pages of text messages here.
Nice.
So it's very sort of easy to read. And the prologue is only 1 page. So definitely you have time to get on board with this. If you're last minute and can't make it to an independent bookseller, please just get the ebook.
Someone I think who joined late says MACD
Yeah, that's Kate.
70.
She's been here.
Oh, she's been here. Okay, so
Jen's special.
She said
Jen's special is a query plus 10 pages special for $25. And
yeah.
So again, head over to her page and you'll be able to see all of that information. I'm so thankful that everybody was here. We will do this again soon. And I'm going to get this replay posted as soon as humanly possible. So, everybody have a great Wednesday and we'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye.